what's up? It's your boy Jeffy coming at you today from New Orleans, Louisiana. Obviously fucking Mardi Gras, absolute chaos going on here at Redneck Vegas, as we like to call it, where the coolest guy from every trailer park comes to party. Saw a lot of frightening things in my time here. Puddles of mystery fluid, women passed out in strange pools of juice on the ground. Let's just put it this way. You don't want to be walking around here with open-toed shoes on because you'll probably get cancer or AIDS or syphilis or a combination of the three, like a syphilitic cancer AIDS of some sort. So anyway, it's been absolute fucking chaos. It's interesting to come here because I actually came here straight from Miami, where I was running the 5-day alumni programs out there. And in Miami, it's completely different, basically. I mean, out there, it's this sort of really like ordered system, you know? It's like kind of this very manufactured environment and atmosphere of an orderly way that things work, you know? Here's the club, here's how you get into the club, here's the thing. I mean, it's chaotic in its own way, but it's very like synthetic in a way. Here, shit's organic, but that organic aspect of it makes it messy as fuck. You know, it's absolutely chaotic, but we would have an amazing time. So that brought me to the topic of today's blog. And it made me remember one of my Facebook friends a while ago. He sent me a message with a suggestion about a video topic dealing with absurdity and chaos. And so being here kind of reminded me of that. And let me actually see what he, read you what he sent me. He said, Jeffy, I really think you should make a video blog with becoming okay with chaos, on becoming okay with chaos. You live like this awesome wild life, it's chaotic, but it doesn't faze you, it's just like your norm. When shit gets too weird, it always freaks me out, so I think it would benefit a lot of folks, not just me, if you would address this. So, it is true. I mean, if you think about it, he does have a fair point. I mean, my life, if you look at it, I live this pretty crazy life, you know. I'm basically paid to like get drunk and travel around the world banging hoes. You know, I drive this crazy van. Let's just put it this way. I'm never running for city council, okay? I'm never running maybe for city council of like Omaha, but I'm certainly not running for president. I basically have face tattoos, okay? I'm like Lil Wayne, I got fucking face tattoos now. And all this crazy shit happens, but I just take it in stride. Now, how do I do that? Well, it's funny because I think that if you take a boot camp with RSD, a big part of the value proposition is the fact that you're immersed in this lifestyle for the weekend. And, you know, I know here Evil Stifler came out with me, and we've been rolling out with a student, and his mind's just been kind of blown by the way we do this shit and how we roll. And it's even worse if you come out, you know, worse or better, more intense, let's just put it that way, if you come out to San Francisco, because again, we're there with all of my crew of retards and sex addicts, you know, Evil Stifler, Minotaur, Gandhi, all these weirdos rolling around in this crazy consensual sex van with like a bubble machine in it. And, you know, you're basically immersed in that lifestyle. And these are all guys who are actually living this life. So I think that's a huge part of the value of the program because it inspires you. First of all, you're like, okay, this is real. You know, you see this actually happens. There are people out there who actually do this. And then secondly, you know, we kind of rub off on you a little bit. Not fully, a little bit. I mean, obviously, you're not going to want to become Evil Stifler, okay? Some like borderline homeless guy who doesn't know how to use the internet, okay? Or you're not going to run out and go buy some van after the program. You might, but probably not. And you don't have to. I mean, you just, like Bruce Lee said, you know, take what works, discard what doesn't. So you can incorporate little bits and pieces, and it'll definitely get the ball rolling. But for a lot of people, it's kind of almost too much. In fact, I remember last summer I had a student, and he actually couldn't take it. It was like he kind of melted down being immersed in the culture. I mean, it was this very young guy, a virgin and so forth, and you know, we're in the van. He's like, Jeff, I got to tell you, I just can't. I don't think this is for me. This program, I just don't think it's for me. I mean, this isn't me. I can't see myself ever being like this at all, ever. You know, we're driving around this crazy van. You have a guitar filled with booze. Like, you have a booze guitar in a van. Like, I don't know, man. You know, and he refunded the program. And I told him, like, look, I disagree with you that you're not going to get any value out of this. You're just not seeing it in the moment. And I'm sure you actually did, in retrospect down the line, get some value out of it. But having said that, again, for him it was just too much at the time, and he couldn't handle it. And many people have difficulty when confronting the essential absurd nature of the universe, right? The essential the ultimate inability to find meaning in our universe and in the chaos and the entropy that swirls all around us every day. And in many ways, this is the fundamental question of philosophy, am I right? So that people have struggled with since time immemorial. And how do people deal with it? Well, I mean, there's a lot of different avenues that most people use to deal with this disquieting realization that there isn't a lot of order to be found in things when you look at it. A lot of people gravitate towards religion. A lot of people gravitate towards just mainstream societal kind of groupthink beliefs. The traditional stuff like go to college, get a good job, get married, have the picket fence, the 2.5 kids, the 401k, and everything will be fine. The good job, or your corporate job, where you just do your work and leave and get your paycheck every 2 weeks on the dime. And if I do that, I can set up that's a system, like structures I've set in place around me that'll protect me from the chaos. But the thing is, even there's no guarantee. I mean, sure, it can give you a feeling of security, but even there's no guarantee. I mean, anything could come out at any time. Cancer, a tornado, your spouse cheats, whatever, anything can happen. So in many ways, it's a false sense of security, in many ways. And a lot of people don't come to this realization until late in life when something terrible happens, or they're faced with something that kind of shakes their beliefs to the core, that makes it unavoidable, that makes this question unavoidable. Now, for me, I learned this lesson at a very young age. To give some context here as to how I actually live my life and why I live my life and how I've come to be the way I am, with the face tattoos and all this and the craziness, and how I become comfortable with that. Well, when I was a teenager, when I was 15, I kind of had my whole world just rocked because my dad went to prison for committing some crimes against my mom and her boyfriend and all this stuff, and this came out, and it was really, really upsetting to me because, I basically had this affluent, white, middle-class, suburban upbringing, this kind of leave it to Beaver sort of upbringing, and then when that's happened, it was like the rug was just yanked out from under me all at once. And I was just reeling, left absolutely reeling, and I was really struggling to say why, some of the things they were saying that happened in the court and everything that came out, it was just so horrible. And I was like, how could this happen? Why did this happen to me? Why? How could this even happen, And I mean, I really struggled. And basically what I did is I kind of sank into nihilism, what essentially amounted to nihilism. I mean, I was a 3.8 GPA student. Within one semester, that dropped to 2.7, and I started doing LSD and pot and all this stuff, and just basically going off the fucking rails. I mean, I can't believe that I actually graduated high school. I mean, I did. I think that they actually felt sorry for me, because the story was in all the papers and everything, and I had always been a good student and everything up till then, so I literally think they just felt sorry for me. But whatever, I actually graduated, But yeah, it was interesting because in my senior year of high school, I stumbled upon a essay by the Algerian novelist Albert Camus, who is a novelist who wrote The Stranger and a bunch of other things. But he's mainly a novelist, but he's also regarded as a philosopher who sort of cultivated and developed further upon existentialism and arrived at a philosophy he called absurdism. And basically, in his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, a short essay, he really delves into this idea and elaborates upon it and kind of lays out the framework for the idea of absurdism. So anyway, after all that shit happened to me when I was a kid, it really seemed like the world kind of completely stripped of meaning. Nothing meant anything. I was really in sort of that Tupac fuck the world, nihilistic mentality. And that's why the Camus essay, Myth of Sisyphus, really resonated with me. Because in it, he talks about how people have hope for tomorrow, yet we're inevitably facing death. Like we have hope for tomorrow, but every tomorrow brings us one step closer to death. He also talks about how the world, once it's stripped of romantic notions about it, is essentially a foreign and inhospitable and even hostile place. And he also discussed how science ultimately can't explain everything. And so in the essay, he outlines his philosophy of the absurd. And basically, what that is, it's what do I mean by absurd? Not necessarily like ridiculous, but in this case, absurdity is man's inability to reconcile his search for a deeper meaning in the universe with his inability to do so, right? And that inability is brought upon us by several things. First and foremost, the sheer vastness of scale of the information at play. Like, you simply are not ever going to be able to get all the information about the universe in order to process it and to find that meaning. And secondly, even if you could, we have physiological limitations on our ability to comprehend it based on the fact that we're organic life forms of the brain. That's how our consciousness is expressed. In the essay, he outlines 3 ways to actually go about rectifying this. And way number 1 is going to be suicide, right? Yeah. Way number 2, religion. And way number 3, an acceptance of the fact that you're never going to be able to understand the universe. So again, in other words, an acceptance of absurdity. And in this, he said, suicide is not a viable option because basically it's just saying it's too much, right? It's too much. I can't deal with it, so I'm going to terminate the self. But Camus argued that killing yourself actually makes absurdity more absurd. It's actually a choice that leads to more absurdity, right? Religion, he actually called a philosophical suicide. And the third option, acceptance, is the way that you can actually achieve what he called freedom, right? By revolting against chaos and disorder while ultimately accepting it, you can find a personal meaning.
There's not only one king. There's multiple kings. There's a black king and a white king. Black king and a white king. Here killing it. Look at these girls. They're killing it. What? Say hi to my moms. Look at the breasts. Mom, say hello. Hello, mom. Oh, on the booty. You guys have range, right?
14-year-old girls.
Good enough for me.
Good enough for me.
Who are you?
My name's Rachel. Hi.
Rachel, James.
Hey.
This is my hetero life mate, James.
Hetero life mate. Good on ya.
So if nihilism is atheism, then absurdism would be more akin to agnosticism, where you don't know if there's a fundamental truth, and you really just don't care. And it's interesting because when you realize that the universe is fundamentally devoid of absolutes, what it allows you to do is define your own personal morality, so to speak. I don't believe in morality, I believe in integrity, okay? And so when you look at it that way, what actually ends up happening, the end result is that the individual becomes the most precious unit of existence, so to speak, with each individual representing his or her own universe, essentially, through their own value system and their own system of integrity. You acknowledge that there's no inherent meaning. However, through the search for that meaning, through, again, what you realize is a fundamentally flawed search for that meaning, you gradually develop a meaning through the process itself. And you know, in RSD, we talk a lot about living in the moment, enjoying the process of game, not the outcome. And it's this sort of mentality that's allowed me to really embrace the game for all its ups and downs throughout the years. For example, you know, let's face it, because the game is fucking uncertain. You can go out, you can be talking to a girl for 2 hours, it's going great connection, the friends love you, everything like that, and then you go to the bathroom, you come back, and she just ignores you like she doesn't even fucking know you. And it doesn't even make sense. It'll blow your mind, you know? You see stuff like this, you know, confrontation, conflict, people not acting the way that you'd like them to act. And again, this all ties back in with this sort of absurdist mentality where you just embrace the chaos, and through the process of gaming, you find your own meaning. And that's how you actually cultivate game. That's how game is cultivated. And the thing is, though, that process of finding your own game and creating your own game, it's never ending. It never ends. It is a constant refreshing. I always say that game is a constant relearning of the principles in many ways, like re-etching those neural pathways over and over. And again, the struggle itself is what I like to immerse myself in. You know, if you go out with me and Julian, I love gaming with that kid because he just has such a joy for it. You know, when he's telling someone that he has cancer and he's mourning his dead girlfriend who got killed in a car crash last week, you know, he's really enjoying the process. And again, I have so much fun gaming with my friends like Alex, Julian. We go out there and we're basically just trolling the world. You know, it's IRL trolling, a dangerous game, the most dangerous game of all, real life trolling. But again, it's that embracing of the absurd. It's funny because people always ask me, they say, Jeff, you know, you're getting old. When are you gonna stop doing this, man? When are you gonna stop doing it? And you know what? You know when I'm gonna stop doing it? When somebody makes me. Right? When they make me fucking stop. Now, I have a high level of distaste for what we call the mainstream, for like mainstream groupthink. Tyler does too. I mean, we really I really have an antipathy towards mainstream groupthink. And the reason that I do is because it's like, to me, it's like religion. It's a way of trying to elude the essential truth that we're talking about here. And, you know, by filling your void, your internal void, with these manufactured belief systems like you see on TV, like the Wendy Williams show, The View, fucking Skip Bayless on ESPN, Bill O'Reilly, these like talking head, like mainstream, and just again, and even overarching, like just the general culture of mainstream belief systems. It's like, look, what you're essentially doing, you're eluding the truth and you're burying your head in the sand. You're burying your fucking head in the sand. And to quote Marilyn Manson from his seminal 1994 album, Portrait of an American Family, he says, pseudo-morals work real well on the talk shows for the weak, but your selective judgments and good guy badges don't mean a fuck to me. I actually got fired from a job for scrawling that on the wall. They called it hate speech. So I've learned to cultivate a personal meaning. I know it's not objective. I know that at the end of the day, it's essentially bullshit, but it doesn't matter. I'm embodying the values that I want to have. I'm helping people, and frankly, I'm having a fucking blast along the way. So when you accept the absurd, this actually enables you to become truly free, to gain a true sense of freedom. Because when you realize that these value systems are essentially meaningless, it allows you to define your own sense of meaning, your own sense of value, and live according to that. But the problem is, we can't ever truly accept the absurd. It can't actually truly be accepted because it's a fundamentally unsolvable problem. So the essential question at the end of Camus' essay is this: does realization of the absurd require suicide? He said no, it requires revolt, meaning a constant challenging, a constant confrontation of this idea. It requires freedom, choosing to live on your own standards, and it requires passion. Because if you think about it, when quality, quote unquote, is not objectively definable, then it becomes not a good metric for living your life, like a quality of life. When there's essentially, you have the ability to do anything. You know, Nietzsche said, everything is permitted. Everything is permitted isn't like some, yay, I'm free. It's more of like a bitter statement of realization. I can do anything. And so you have to decide what exactly it is you're going to do. And when we talk about living with passion, we're talking about living every moment to the fullest. Literally living every single moment to the fullest. Being present, you actually experience more than somebody who's otherwise preoccupied. And in RSD, this is what we talk about. We talk about this is the energy that we bring when we're interacting with girls. It's called charisma, and it's actually magnetic. In other words, when you're going up, you're unstifled, you're living in the moment, you're actually enjoying the process right there with her. One of the major tenets of game is what? The idea of whatever you feel, they feel. So again, if you're living in that unstifled, charismatic, you're bringing that to them, you're truly living the moment, well, they're going to start to feel that around you. And that's actually what causes people to become highly attracted to you, because they think to themselves, this is crazy. This guy's really free in a lot of ways that I might not be. And just being around him, they get to feel what it would be like to be like that. And they're like, maybe I could be like that too. And that's why it's so important, again, to be present, to be unstifled. All of that good stuff that we talk about in RSD. An absurdist is actually amoral, okay? Not immoral necessarily, but amoral. Morality is something that was invented by people to justify certain types of behavior, okay? And so, again, stepping outside of that is very difficult. I mean, people will judge you. It's not for everyone. Again, the absurd life is not for everybody. Like I said, like that student who couldn't handle the van and the booze guitar. Again, it's not for everyone. And it is like, kind of like off the beaten path. Now, in his essay, Camus actually outlines several archetypes of an absurd man, and one of those is the warrior, okay? And this is a guy who, again, eschews these like trappings of security and decides instead to fully engage with human history, okay? He goes on the battlefield, he lives, he fights, he dies there, and he, that's his way of engaging the world, okay? He also talks about the actor who, in a course of a couple of hours, actually goes through an entire lifetime, and the audience gets to experience that. And then the third, of course, is most famously, or rather most germane to what we're talking about here, is of course the Don Juan, the seducer, the guy who has this parade of conquests, okay? And what are some of like the accusations levied against this guy, against the Don Juan, the seducer? Number one, that he's actually desperately seeking for love, and that's why he does these behaviors. Another one is that he's selfish. Another one is that he is unimaginatively repeating the same tactics over and over and over again. Another is that he's going to end up lonely and alone, like a sad, lonely old man, or that he is perhaps depressed and melancholy now, and that's why he engages in these behaviors. But the thing is, as speaking as a quote-unquote Don Juan, a seducer, we live for the present moment. We engage life fully, and we fully realize this, okay? And if you think about it, I mean, yes, I might be selfish in my own way. However, ultimately, I'm not seeking to possess or control the women that I hook up with. In terms of like desperately seeking for love, I harbor no illusions of that, okay? I'm not a cynic. I'm totally open to, getting to know someone and cultivating a relationship with some girl that I meet. But as far as what we're doing, like going out, beasting in the club, it's like, I know what it is. It's the game, right? And we love the game. We love the repetition of the act. We love hitting the notes, hitting the waypoints in the interaction, making it work, and fully engaging that way and seeing the result. The result, in many cases, the sex is in many cases simply the icing on the cake for us. And we love. This is the way that we've chosen to engage the world. Okay. In terms of being caught off guard. I'm going to end up a sad, lonely old man and wish that I had had children to comfort me in my later years. It's like, look, I harbor no illusions of this. I know who I am and I know where I'm going. So old age is not going to catch me by surprise, okay? I know, again, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and old age isn't going to catch me off guard. As far as impotence is concerned, well, there's penis pills now for that. You can get a pill for that. There's probably an app for it too. Now, insofar as the accusation that the seducer is simply unimaginatively repeating the same techniques over and over, well, I mean, come on. If the technique is getting the result, I see no need to vary it, because again, that is what we are actually looking for, is that experience of winning over and over. Now, at the end of the myth of Sisyphus, Camus actually talks about the myth of Sisyphus itself. Now, if you're not familiar with it or you don't remember, a little refresher course, Sisyphus was a king in ancient times who was famous for being deceitful. And he, in fact, he tricked the gods on many occasions. In fact, one time when he died, he tricked death and he trapped death. And what ended up happening was nobody could die because death was chained up downstairs. And so Ares actually got pissed off because his wars, nobody could die. So he's like, enough of this shit, and so he intervened. And eventually, as his punishment, Sisyphus was compelled to roll a boulder up a hill over and over and over. And every time he get up to the top of the hill, the boulder would roll down, and he has to trudge back down and roll it up again. And Camus likened this to our experience in our modern life, which basically, you get up, you go to work, you do your work, you eat, you breathe, you sleep, you fuck, you piss, you shit, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it all over again. And, he asks, how do you find happiness in this situation? And he's particularly interested in the mindset of Sisyphus as he is walking down the hill with the certainty that he's going to have to do this for eternity. And he essentially says that through acceptance of his predicament, like once he's given up hope, then he actually becomes free. That's when he becomes free, and that's when he gains true happiness. And that's basically what it is. You have to accept the chaos, accept that it's never going to end until you die, and engage fully with the world, right? And he actually concludes his essay with the following lines. The struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. So in other words, if happiness is possible, then Sisyphus has to be happy by definition, if that makes sense. If we can achieve happiness, the only way to do it is, again, by accepting the essential unknowable nature of the universe, embracing it, and understanding that the only meaning we have is the personal meaning that we cultivate through our search and through our experience, and gaining a true freedom from societal mores and societal values and mainstream groupthink through that. And then, of course, living your life with passion and fully engaging it. Looking for knowing that there's no objective quality that can be achieved from life. You instead fill your life, every single moment, with the most passion and the most quantity of life that you can. That doesn't necessarily mean having longevity, but it means every single moment is experienced fully, completely internalized, and completely present. So it's fucking freezing cold. My fingers have gone numb. So I'm gonna jet out of here, headed back to San Francisco. And this has been Jeffy from Mardi Gras. Hope you learned a lot from this video, and I'll see you next time.